What if Zack Snyder's DC universe had never been cancelled? What if the story that began with Man of Steel had continued exactly in the direction Zack Snyder originally planned? We could have seen a massive DC saga connecting Superman, Batman, Darkseid, the Justice League, Joker, Flash, and the mysterious Knightmare future into one continuous storyline. The entire story begins with Man of Steel. After the destruction of Krypton, a young Kryptonian named Kal-El is sent to Earth. He grows up as Clark Kent and slowly discovers his powers and his true identity. Clark struggles with one major question. Should he live among humans as an ordinary person, or should he reveal himself to the world? Eventually, he becomes Superman and faces General Zod. But at this point, Superman is still learning what it means to be a hero. His journey has only just begun. Then comes Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice. Superman has now become one of the most powerful beings on Earth, but Bruce Wayne does not trust him. After seeing the destruction in Metropolis, Bruce becomes convinced that Superman could eventually become a threat to humanity. He believes that if Superman ever turns against the world, there may be no one powerful enough to stop him. This leads to the famous conflict between Batman and Superman. But the most important part of Batman vs. Superman was not their fight. It was the introduction of the Knightmare future. Bruce Wayne sees a possible future where the world has been destroyed, Superman has changed, and Batman is fighting alongside a small group of surviving heroes. At first, this looks like a nightmare or vision. But later, it becomes clear that this future is connected to the much larger story Zack Snyder wanted to tell. Then we get Zack Snyder's Justice League. After Superman's death, Bruce Wayne realizes that he cannot protect the Earth alone. He begins recruiting powerful heroes, including Wonder Woman, Aquaman, The Flash, and Cyborg. Together, they form the Justice League. Superman is eventually brought back, and the League defeats Steppenwolf. But Steppenwolf was never supposed to be the ultimate threat. The real threat was Darkseid. Zack Snyder's Justice League introduces the larger threat of Apocalypse and Darkseid, while once again showing us the nightmare future. And this is where the story becomes much darker. If Snyder's planned sequels had continued, Darkseid would eventually come to Earth with his full power. His ultimate goal would be the anti-life equation. But his greatest weapon would not simply be his army. It would be Superman. If Zack Snyder's planned Justice League sequels had continued, Darkseid would eventually come to Earth with his full power. His ultimate goal would be, if Zack Snyder's planned Justice League sequels had continued, Darkseid would eventually come to Earth with his full power. His ultimate goal would be the anti-life equation, a weapon capable of controlling the minds and will of living beings. But Darkseid's greatest weapon would not simply be his army. It would be Superman. According to Snyder's planned storyline, Lois Lane would die, and her death would completely break Superman emotionally. Darkseid would then use the anti-life equation to corrupt Superman and bring him under his control. The hero who once protected humanity would become its greatest threat. This is where the nightmare future becomes reality. In this future, Batman, Joker, Flash, Cyborg, and other surviving heroes are trying to survive in a destroyed world ruled by an evil Superman. Batman and Joker would also have a major confrontation in this timeline. Joker would remind Bruce of his greatest failures and the people he had lost. Their relationship would be filled with tension, history, and psychological conflict. But Batman would still have one goal. He had to save Superman. And that is where the Flash becomes extremely important. The Justice League would eventually realize that their only chance to change the future is through time travel. Flash would have to travel through time and change the event that caused Superman to fall under Darkseid's control. If Lois Lane could be saved, Superman might never fall to the anti-life equation. And if Superman never falls, the Knightmare future could potentially be prevented. But even after changing the timeline, Darkseid would still remain a threat. The Justice League would still have to face him. This would lead to the final chapter of the planned SnyderVerse. The heroes would have to prepare for a massive final war against Darkseid and the forces of Apocalypse. The Justice League would not fight alone. Amazons, Atlanteans, humans, and other forces would come together for one final battle against Darkseid. And this battle would come with the ultimate sacrifice: Batman. According to Snyder's planned story, Bruce Wayne would sacrifice himself to protect his friends, the Justice League, and ultimately Superman. Batman's death would become one of the biggest emotional moments of the entire story. But Batman's sacrifice would also complete Superman's journey. Think about Superman's entire arc. In Man of Steel, Clark is trying to understand who he really is. In Batman vs Superman, the world fears him. In Justice League, he returns after death. Then, in the planned sequels, he would fall into darkness and become controlled by Darkseid. And finally, he would overcome that darkness and become the Superman the world needed him to be. His journey would finally be complete. And then comes the planned ending of the SnyderVerse. The story would jump many years into the future. Bruce Wayne would be gone, but his legacy would continue. Lois Lane and Clark Kent's son would grow up, and Superman would eventually tell him about Batman and the sacrifices Bruce made to protect the world. The idea was that Batman's legacy would continue into a new generation. A new Batman could eventually rise. So the SnyderVerse would not simply end with the heroes defeating Darkseid. It would end with a new generation carrying forward the legacy of the heroes who came before them. And that is what made Zack Snyder's planned DC universe much bigger than just a collection of superhero movies. Man of Steel would introduce Superman and begin his journey. Batman vs Superman would introduce Batman, establish the conflict between the two heroes, and tease the Knightmare future. Justice League would unite the heroes and introduce the larger threat of Darkseid. The planned sequels would explore Superman's fall, the Knightmare future, Flash's time travel, Batman's sacrifice, and the final war against Darkseid. And finally, Superman would complete his journey while Batman's legacy would pass to the next generation. But this story was never fully completed on screen. We saw the beginning. We saw part of the middle. But we never got to see the planned ending of the SnyderVerse as a finished movie saga. And that is why one question still remains for many DC fans. What if Zack Snyder's DC universe had never been cancelled? Maybe we would have witnessed one of the most ambitious superhero sagas ever planned. A connected story about Superman, Batman, Darkseid, the Justice League, sacrifice, redemption, and the legacy of an entire generation. That was the vision behind Zack Snyder's planned DC universe.